Kirsty Dunn. I'm the new seller social marketing manager here at eBay. A little about me. I've been at eBay for 5 years now in both Australia and the US, and I've worked in comms for 13 years. It's a pleasure to join this series and to join the seller team. As you know, the month of June is Traffic Month. Throughout the month, we're hosting segments to help you learn about how you can drive traffic to the site and to your listings. We're now in our 3rd week, and today I'll be chatting about all things social media marketing and how sellers can leverage social media to better connect with buyers. I'm joined by our old friend, Audrey Tracy. She's our social content strategist and editorial planner and has a wealth of social marketing knowledge. Welcome back, Audrey.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm so glad to be back on the podcast, and congratulations to Kirsty in the new role.
Thank you very much, Audrey. Happy to be working together. So in week 1 of Traffic Month, the head of marketing, Andrea Stairs, told us about eBay's marketing efforts and what eBay does to drive traffic and, most importantly, buyers to eBay. We know that 98% of digital consumers are social media users, and obviously eBay buyers are digital consumers. We also know that a lot of search and inspiration starts on social, so there's no wonder that social media is part of our marketing efforts. Audrey, really keen to get a bit of an outline on how eBay uses social channels and what does the general day look like for you in your world?
Sure. Happy to. So with nearly 13 million followers, eBay's social channels really give us extraordinary access to shoppers interested in our brand at a very low cost. Let's talk about some interesting statistics, on how consumers use social. And this is not just eBay buyers, but the world in general, buyers in general. So 74% of people trust social to guide purchasing decisions. 60% of users learn about new products via Instagram. 55% of all users do research on social, like perhaps visiting a brand's page to understand more about the brand or the item, the product. And right now people are spending hours and hours on social, and I would argue even more so because they're kind of cooped up at home due to the COVID. So we are seeing lots of traffic on our social channels, and I'm sure other brands are as well. So on our consumer-facing channels, that includes Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. There's many different things we do to connect with our buyers to drive traffic to the site. So these include a couple of different kind of content buckets. Number 1 is deals, offers, seasonal sales, like maybe a 4th of July sale, a Memorial Day sale. Those messages are really around value, typically around good deals, good discounts. And then they also highlight eBay's breadth of inventory. We have almost, I think we have 1.5 billion listings on eBay. So you can imagine what sort of breadth we have there. Another bucket of content is seller storytelling. So eBay is really blessed to have so many amazing sellers, and buyers really actually like to see the sellers behind the product. So we do a lot of seller storytelling, to kind of inspire and motivate our buyers to learn more about our sellers. And then finally, profiling unique eBay finds. And this kind of helps us foster community within our social channels. We like to highlight what we call uniquely in eBay inventory, interesting, rare, weird, wonderful items on eBay. And those really get our social fans talking when we publish that kind of content. And so we use a mix of organic and paid social to drive traffic and results for our marketing efforts.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm super excited to get into the weeds of the seller storytelling.
Sure.
We just released a really awesome one last week, and I'm sure there's a wealth more that we'll be working together on. So super exciting. Could you tell us just a little bit more about the difference between organic and paid social? Like, how do we use them? Is it best to use them in tandem? Do you use them separately? Do you use them together? What's it all about?
Sure. So first, let's define our terms. Organic social means unpaid, free social, right? So think of your personal Facebook or Instagram page. Those are probably organic in that they're free. You probably don't, in your personal life, you probably don't do a whole lot of paid. Paid social media means you're putting money behind your posts. You're buying advertising on one of these channels to make sure that your message is showing up to an appropriate audience. So we use organic and paid social ads for two primary reasons. Organic to kind of target broad audiences with more general promotional or marketing messages. So you can think of that as, eBay putting a post up about our Memorial Day sale in our Facebook page. That's untargeted. We want everyone to know about our Memorial Day sale, right? And then in paid, we use that to target specific customers who have shown interest in specific items or categories. What's great about paid is there are many, many more targeting options, so you can get really specific about who sees your message. Andrea last week talked about the luxury watch buyer. Mm. We do a little bit of luxury watch content in our organic, but really where you're going to find those luxury watch buyers, the really niche audience that you're looking for, is primarily through a paid tactic.
Completely, yeah, that makes sense.
So, and each has its own benefits, right? So organic helps drive engagement and awareness at no cost, but sometimes it's harder to cut through. The message is difficult to cut through because imagine how much content is out there in the social media world. So we try to be very thoughtful and about what is going to cut through when we think about a post. And then paid is great for acquisition and growth. It's a lot of inspiration happens on social, as you know, and paid can kind of get that buyer to be not only inspired, but move them over to the kind of conversion part of the marketing funnel and get them to transact on eBay. We also find great success with paid when retargeting customers. So we do like to follow you around the internet and offer you ads to things that you may have kind of indicated interest in earlier. So if you're a seller and you're new to social, you want to get started with social, I would get started with organic, start building up your page, start building up your following, and then test out paid. And you can do that either by creating a brand new ad within I'm talking about Facebook here, within the Facebook platform, which this also applies to Instagram. Or you can simply take an organic post that you've already created and do what's called boosting it. You can boost that post. And I recommend that you kind of start small, invest, maybe $20 in an ad, set a start and end date, and then go back and look at your learnings and kind of just start to build some learnings and some insights about what your content does, how it performs, and how you can optimize it for the next post.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. I think a lot of people wouldn't realize, especially for paid, that you can start with such a small amount. I think some people might think it's a bigger barrier to entry because you need to have thousands and thousands of marketing dollars, but it's not the case. As you said, you can start from as little as $20 and boost an organic post and have lots of key learnings from that.
Yeah, so, I also want to say, there's a lot of best practices around how to use organic and paid, but honestly, there's no set rules, right? If you're a small business owner selling on eBay, no one is going to present you with a blueprint that says, 4 posts a day about this specific topic will drive the best results. There's no formula to it. It's a matter of getting into the channels, testing and learning, figuring out, what's the right content, what's the right cadence, how often should you publish, that sort of thing.
Yeah, awesome. Plenty of good food for thought there.
Yeah.
So let's talk about social media trends. So it seems like there's always something new. There's always a new platform that's literally going viral or new ways of working with influencers. Can you just tell us a little bit about the trends that you're seeing currently and what we might be doing in that space?
Certainly. So shopping and shoppable content on social channels is one of the biggest trends that's obviously relevant to eBay. If you're thinking about it from a small business point of view, I would really recommend that you use something like Curating or Linktree this is specifically for Instagram, although we use Curating on Facebook as well. And what that does is it creates some shoppable content. So if you think about your Instagram feed, those tend to be static images, or maybe it's a video, but you can't click through, right? So something like Linktree or Curate, what it does is it basically sucks up the images from your Instagram page and creates a page that is full of links, and that will drive back to your eBay page. So shoppable content is huge right now, and I would recommend if you're doing social media to promote your eBay business that you look into something like that. Obviously, no one, everyone's talking about TikTok right now. TikTok is exploding. We're looking at how we might tap into that for both buyer and seller messages. That's I can't quite announce a launch yet, but just keep an eye on eBay on TikTok. That's all I'll say.
Oh, very exciting.
Yeah, and then influencer marketing is always changing, as you know. That's a very dynamic field, and we work with eBay works with both top tier influencers to build awareness and loyalty, and then influencers at the more kind of micro level that are optimized for click-throughs for specific items or maybe categories, right? Like you can think of I'm just making this up, but like in the influencer world, we might want somebody who's like a real known for giving great advice about deals. We might leverage them to talk about eBay in general, how great eBay is, how many deals you can get on eBay. But then we might use somebody like a DIY influencer to talk specifically about the tools category as an example.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep.
Awesome. Yeah, I think it's very hard to keep up with the trends sometimes in social media. There's something new every single day, but yeah, I think there's lots of nuggets out there and lots of articles, and you just see stuff coming through on your own social media.
Yes.
Now, I just want to talk about, obviously, the pandemic, COVID, has obviously made everyone have to adjust either their business operations or their marketing efforts to stay in touch with their customers. Everyone's had to move online. Small businesses are finding great success with utilizing social media. I personally live in New York, and I'm not only consuming all of my news through social media, but I'm also finding products and services pretty much exclusively through social. In the last few weeks, I've bought clothes, I've bought household items, and even beer from local businesses that I've seen pop up promoting on social. So it's probably brands that I was maybe already following, but then I've also been targeted with a lot of ads that have really spoken to me. And so I've definitely been seeing a huge increase in that. So have you seen that increase? And how can our sellers use social media to drive traffic right now?
Yeah, so I'm seeing a couple of things going on. Number one, I'm seeing a lot of local businesses in my area kind of adjust their business model. I'm thinking about restaurants and things like that. So they don't necessarily apply to eBay per se, but I am fascinated on how small business owners are so adept and adaptable, to find new audiences and new customers in the time of COVID. But then we've also seen that with online businesses as well. So according to a recent Facebook report, 51% of small businesses report increasing online interactions with their clients, either by bringing their business online, using digital payments, or by increasing their social media presence. So I think savvy small business owners, even if they're running an online store, and maybe their business model hasn't been terribly impacted, are realizing that, the pandemic has had a big impact on consumer behavior, and they are looking more and more to online and especially social to market their businesses. We also know that, they're folks, consumers have a lot of time right now. We're kind of looking for information, calming ourselves down about this pandemic, and we've been turning to a lot of online content. I know my personal consumption has gone way up. I don't know if you saw the meme that was like, it was basically like, here's some helpful tips to get through the pandemic, and it was like, tip number 1, wake up. Tip number 2, from 9 a.m. to 2 a.m., just stare at your phone all day. Like, that's what people are doing.
And buying lots of things.
Exactly. So if you want to take advantage of all this, folks are online, you don't necessarily need a lot of money or a lot of resources to start social media marketing. It's free and kind of accessible to everyone. You're probably doing social media in your personal life. So, just flip that on its side and start marketing your business through social media. And when you think about the customer journey, like where does social media fall within your marketing mix? Social media marketing is really great to get kind of what we call further up the funnel. So if you think about the marketing funnel with awareness at the very top and conversion at the very bottom, social is a great way to drive things like awareness and consideration for your business. And you know, the great thing about social media is you do it yourself, right? You don't have to hire an agency, or you can begin creating content right now and start thinking about what your audience wants to hear, you know, what your audience wants to hear from you, how often, etc.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. I think it could be probably quite daunting maybe for some of our sellers to start out. Like, I think we've obviously taken years and years to build our loyal following of 13 million across all of our social channels. So I think for some of the small businesses, it could be overwhelming and daunting. So how easy is it to start, and what's the first thing that they should do?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, you know, social media is a great way to connect with and engage with existing or new buyers, and also kind of that top of the funnel awareness and consideration. So we find that at least on the eBay side, we're very strategic about who our audiences are, pardon me, and our channels. So the Facebook audience tends to be a little bit older, tends to be like Gen X and older. The Instagram audience tends to be a little younger. I would say Gen X and
Millennials.
wait a minute. Yeah, and yes. Thank you. I've got my generations mixed up. Anyway, they tend to be a little more into trends and pop culture. And then Twitter shows a wide range of demographics, but it's really about, that to me is more about the format of the channel, right? Twitter is really great for breaking news, what's happening now. If I had to pick, if I was a small business owner on eBay and I wanted to promote my business through social media marketing, I would probably pick Instagram and Facebook first over Twitter. Twitter to me is a little more news and information versus sales.
Consumer is more, I think Facebook and Instagram lends itself to kind of consumerism more generally.
Yep. And so, and you know, Instagram is really great for products, for if you're selling products, Instagram is really great. And a couple of tips there. Think about your Instagram page and how that gallery or grid of images lays out when I'm looking at your page. And be thoughtful about how those photos kind of sit well with each other. Instagram stories are great as well. And you'll find, particularly on the way that eBay uses Instagram, is we're really precious about our feed, meaning our what goes in the gallery or grid view, but in other words, we're very thoughtful and judicious about what we put on our in-feed content. But Instagram stories, as you may know, only last 24 hours, and they are a vertical orientation, and we can do a lot more messaging there, right? So that is where we put kind of our, for lack of a better term, kind of our ephemeral messages around, you know, here's a sale, or here's a great deal, or here's a great discount. Those sort of kind of direct, more call to action content goes into our Instagram stories. Yeah. And if you're, once you get to 10,000 followers, you can do a swipe up on your Instagram story, which will lead directly to your product.
I've definitely swiped up a lot the past few months.
So let me just, I have a bunch of tips here on how to start out with social media. Excuse me. The first one is set your goals up front. What do you want to accomplish with your marketing? Is it to market your products to more buyers, increase traffic, increase loyalty? Think about what you're really trying to solve for. Set up your accounts and pick your handles. And when we say handles, we mean, you know, what name appears on your social channels. It makes sense to keep the same as your eBay seller name. That way you've got consistent branding across all of your channels. But if that isn't available, add it like an introductory phrase or maybe an underscore. So if my name is eBay Audrey, all one word on eBay, and that is not available on Instagram, you might think about eBay underscore Audrey, something like that. Yeah. So that you're really close and people understand that those two handles are associated with each other. Awesome. Keep up on your posting best practices and tools. There's a ton of content and resources out there. I personally like the Social Bakers blog. I find that content really great when it comes to just being aware of best practices, new features, etc.
And you can find that on their website.
Yes, sorry, socialbakers.com/blog. Socialbakers.com/blog. Build up your followers, follow your friends and your competitors' friends. I don't recommend buying fans. When you buy fans, that tends to be a low value fan. You want somebody who is genuinely interested in your brand and has come to your page to consume your content. And if you buy fans, that tends to be a low quality fan that doesn't engage with you, that's not there for the right reasons. So don't even bother. It's not going
to be valuable to you at all. Yeah. Exactly.
So shape your content for engagement and pay attention to what's working and what isn't. A lot of, this is kind of an old an old social media trick, is to, ask your followers a question. Maybe you put up the same pair of socks and one has cheeseburgers on it and the other one has Elmo, and you ask your fans to vote for, which sock would they sport, that kind of thing, just to get some engagement going, because especially on Facebook, engagement drives reach, right? So if you post something and it doesn't get a whole lot of engagement, it's not going to get a whole lot of reach. But if you put something up and it gets a ton of engagement, Facebook rewards that behavior by showing it to more people. So you want to keep that in mind as you think about Facebook's algorithm.
Good to know.
And then also, of course, look at there is a difference when you're looking at your page and you're kind of trying to figure out what works versus looking at your analytics tools. So Instagram, Twitter, Facebook all have analytics tools on the back end where you can really be scientific about what's working and what's not. Obviously, and this goes without saying, invest in great photos. Social is very visual. So make sure that you have great photos. And I want to share a couple more tips on photos in just a second.
Yes, please do.
Let's see. Always link back to your eBay store and listings. Use Bitly if sometimes the URL for your view item page is very long. So use a Bitly to make that more concise. Use ads to increase your reach. Going back to what I just said about boosting posts. Typically what we like to do is we put a post out there. We give it maybe 12, 24 hours to get some kind of organic engagement. And if we find that is doing really well, we'll put some money behind it. So that might be a strategy for you as a small business owner.
Right.
And then lastly, have fun with it. I know it seems like a lot to create content and do this every day, but it's worth it. This is part of your marketing mix. Treat this as something that's relevant and important for your company. Think of it as an investment in your business.
Yeah.
And use a free publishing tool like Hootsuite to plan out and schedule your content in advance. So, instead of feeling like you have to, oh my gosh, look at my Facebook page every day, oh my God, you can, create the content, schedule it out so that you're not constantly working on content.
That's great. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, sorry, last tip.
No,
many tips.
Keep going.
So many tips.
We want the tips.
Another one is brand consistency, right? So make sure that your brand shows up consistently across both your eBay store and your social media channels, and then find the right hashtags that are appropriate for your content. Hashtags bring in traffic, so be sure to use your hashtags strategically.
Got it.
And then there's also a couple of things from eBay that you might want to consider using. We have a bunch of fun Giphies at giphy.com/eBay. We've also got Instagram stickers, and when you're creating a story on Instagram, just search for eBay in the sticker section, and all kinds of fun stuff pops up for both buyers and sellers.
Great.
And then there's also a hashtag that we use for eBay finds. So typically we use this for showcasing, this is user-generated content. We go on and search the internet for hashtag eBay finds, and we repost some of the great stories. So buyers will often find this rare, unique, wonderful thing that they found on eBay, take a picture of it, tag it with eBay finds, and then we go out there and find that content and reshare it, because as you know, unique, interesting stuff is kind of the backbone of eBay.
Totally. And I guess sellers could even use that as well. Like we have a lot of sellers who buy on eBay or buy elsewhere and have found something amazing, and they're selling it then back on eBay. So I think they could probably utilize that that eBay Finds hashtag to try and get in with a chance of being shared on some of our core channels.
Exactly. Okay, so one more thing I want to talk about, and that is one of the most fun parts of my job is actually curating the eBay site, looking for truly unique and interesting items that you can't find anywhere. Internally, we call that kind of content uniquely eBay. And so if you're a seller on eBay and you are interested in like, how does eBay feature my items in their social content? Let me give you a few tips on this. I can't guarantee that you'll be featured in our channels, obviously, but let's increase the likelihood.
Best shot. Yeah.
Exactly. Let's increase the likelihood of that. So number one is have unique inventory, but have multiple quantities, right? So we are probably not going to want to drive traffic to a one-of-a-kind item because we're concerned that it might sell out early, right? And then that would lead to a bad experience. The exception for that, of course, is eBay Motors. We find a ton of amazing, interesting cars and vehicles and boats and whatnot on eBay Motors. Those actually tend to perform really well for us. And so in that area, we're not afraid to put up a one-of-a-kind item. Let's see what else. Photos. I can't say enough about photos when it comes to curating merchandise on eBay. We take photos directly from the listing. So number one, make sure you have high-res images. Do all of your photo best practices that you would do for your listing, but I would add a few more. Number one, or number, 47 on this list of tips is give us some good options in terms of photo orientation. So oftentimes we'll need a square, a portrait, and maybe even a landscape of those images. It all depends on the social channels and the formats, right? Like Instagram stories is vertical, Facebook can be horizontal or square, so can Twitter. So just think about the orientation of the photo. And then also if you do lifestyle imagery, which we actually like quite a bit, I know that's not an official eBay photo best practice, but if you happen to have lifestyle imagery, make sure that all the details look great. So there's kind of a running joke on my team because there's a seller or there's an item, that we like to feature, and they do lifestyle images and they have a hand model, but the woman's nails are all janky. And so my team has to Photoshop this person's fingernails, right? To make sure that the hand model is decent. The item is awesome. It gets us tons of engagement, but that distracting fingernail
think about the whole picture.
Exactly. Think about some art direction. Okay, that's it for all my tips.
That is a lot, but very useful. And you are the expert. You know these things, and I think there's going to be some really super useful things for our sellers. I know you touched on the Giphies and the Instagram stickers. There's also a whole bunch of awesome new illustrations for Zoom and Facebook that are going to be available to sellers. This one behind me is one of them. So from next week, be sure to check out the Seller Center social media section to access all of these resources, and we'll make sure that all of the links are there for you. So we've already talked about the importance of a great picture, and obviously a picture tells 1,000 words, but video content also leads the way when it comes to socials. So one example that springs to mind for me is one of our Austin sellers, Love Studio Ceramics. They use Instagram stories to bring buyers behind the scenes to their operations, and they even show making the mugs that they sell and things like that. So could you tell me more about the types of stories that our sellers are or could tell on video?
Yeah, I think video is a great way to connect with your buyers, and video tends to perform better than static images in social channels, with a few exceptions, but in general, that's true. It really gives you the opportunity to tell more about yourself and kind of reinforce your brand. So you might think about, in terms of types of content for video, you might think about these. Number one is a check-in, like our bi-weekly Marnie Mondays that your team's doing. How-to videos, like this could be a product, this could be either like, I'm just making this up, how to build a bench, right? And then you're using a specific drill that you sell to make the bench, right? So you could do, You could do how to make the bench, or you could do a product demonstration on how to use the drill, right? There's a couple angles there.
For sure.
People love behind the scenes content. So, walking through your store, walking through your process. If you're a maker, like the ceramicist you just mentioned, show your process, show how you make things.
Yeah.
Or maybe the behind the scenes is, if you're really well known for your packaging because you sell, vintage china or something, and you really want to show off how you package the item so that you can build trust with your buyer there. Another idea is launching new products. So if you've got a brand new product line, you might want to talk about that. And then profiling unique inventory or backstories for specific inventory. So if you've got some rare, interesting, wonderful, unique thing, tell the backstory on it, where to come from, how old is it, where has it been, that sort of thing.
Great. Yeah, love that. I think, yeah, lots of useful things that sellers can use video for. I guess you touched on photos, and there being different formats of photos, but there's also different formats of videos as well. So can you just walk us through some of those different video formats and maybe some best practices that you might have gleaned?
Yeah, happy to. So as you know, you can shoot vertically or horizontally or even square with video. So just be sure that whatever content you're creating, you've got the right specs for the channel that you're going to be in. In general, long form content is best for YouTube. And everyone's got a very short attention span these days. Long form means, in my mind, up to about 5 minutes. I think 3 to 5 minutes is probably optimal. On YouTube, product demonstrations are ideal kind of content for that channel. On YouTube, be sure to use your keywords so that you'll show up in search, and always link back to your eBay store. Switching over to Facebook and Instagram stories. Like I mentioned, Instagram stories are vertical, and each segment is maximum 15 seconds long. So you might want to plan out your story, right? So that you're hitting a key message within each 15-second segment. Or you can let Instagram story chop up your longer video, say your 45-second video, into 3 15s. But I think it's really more kind of planful and thoughtful to do those 15-second segments.
Yeah.
While live streaming is fun and exciting, I don't know if I would start off with that as a video for kind of a small business owner. I really recommend that you start with recorded video to give you more control and get some learnings on what works, what doesn't, how does your storytelling kind of lay out. And then if you're bold enough to do live broadcasts, then go for it. Whatever kind of video you do, be an art director. And what I mean by that is, look at your shot. Make sure your background's not too cluttered. Make sure your shirt doesn't clash with your background. Make sure the angle is great. Are you shooting up and you've got, some double chins you want to avoid? Make sure the angle is complementary to your face. Just be really thoughtful about what your shot looks like and how you're presenting yourself to the world.
Yeah, I think we've covered some mammoth tips. I think this is probably a bumper segment for ourselves, but I think there's some really useful tips there. And thank you very much for coming back on the podcast and obviously helping our sellers understand social media marketing a little bit more, and most importantly, walking them through some of the best ways that they can take advantage of social media. So thank you, Audrey.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm so glad to be back on the podcast. It's great. And it's always exciting to talk about something so powerful that connects eBay sellers with so many shoppers. So I'm happy to advise. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And I want to thank our sellers for tuning in to the 3rd episode of our month-long Traffic Month series. We've heard some very, very, very useful and valuable insights from Audrey in this bumper segment. And we're hoping that you've glean something useful to boost your marketing efforts. Next week, we're talking about the eBay Partner Network and how sellers can use affiliate links to make money from driving traffic. Can't wait to learn more about that. And we're also taking questions on community, and we'll be covering those at the end of the month. So be sure to head to community.ebay.com and find the Traffic Month banner, and it will take you to where you need to go. So thank you and take care.